Welcome back to a very long and a very overdue video. It's my bad, man. Life happens. Hopefully you enjoyed that last little clip. That was James driving his GTO for the first time in 2 years, a little over 2 years. And unfortunately, it wasn't like a slam dunk win for me like I wanted. I wanted it to be running and driving, everything works, you know, woo woo, no big deal, whatever. Unfortunately, the car had some other underlying issues, and it was going beyond the scope of the agreement, which was to get him back the car running and driving, which it is, albeit not perfect. But honestly, when him and his friends showed up, they were like, dude, you've done more than we've been able to accomplish in 2 years, so we genuinely do not care, because now we can drive it, and before we couldn't drive it. And so that says something in and of itself. But I do have a lot of updates, not just with the GTO leaving, but with our GTO here. It's a mess because it's been on the back burner for a couple of weeks. EJ stuff here. So we got this. If you don't know what this is the Hooker LS turbo kit that they came up with a few years ago to make DIY turbo systems cheaper and easier for, DIYs. I got that in trade for the engine that used to be in this car that, I didn't really have any money in, and Wesley didn't have any money in this either. So he was like, I need that engine for my race car. And I was like, well, I can't use it because the iron block doesn't fit the all-wheel drive setup, like you guys saw, for the motor mounts setup. So I have to build an engine anyways. I was like, cool. Giant turbo, better flowing exhaust system, minimal welding. I do have to make a modification on the crossover pipe underneath. Not a big deal because there's a drive shaft where it otherwise would have easily hooked up. It's fine. From what I can tell, this setup is good for about 800-ish flow-wise. More than enough, because remember, 800 horsepower times 4, okay? Because we're going to have 4 wheels of power. And we don't know the limitations of that yet, so this makes my life incredibly easy. And I can't wait to get back to it. So we're going to touch on all the projects thus far and just kind of plan ahead and what I've been up to. Outside of the GTO, I bought a cam off a buddy of mine, Scott, who had a billet cord cam that he had ground for a Hemi, but somehow when they went to make said cam, it went from a Hemi cam to an LS cam, and that's what they built. That's not what he needed. He needed a Gen 3 Hemi cam. So when it showed up, it was a 3-bolt, LS cam, and he was like, tell you what, man, I'll take a dive on what I spent. I just need some money back to order this next cam. It's not a big deal. I figured, pass the deal on to somebody who can use it. I'm like, cool. I ran the numbers, the cam card. It will work for what we need in this setup, so cool. On top of that, I have a 1:7-to-1 ratio BTR shaft mounted rockers. Marketplace, $350. I know it's getting pretty ridiculous, and I'm super grateful, coming to these deals. If you're not aware, that same rocker shaft setup is about $500 new from BTR, and that gives the GTO the same style of valve train setup, at least on the rockers anyway, as the Durango, because as you know, the Gen 3 Hemis all have shaft mounted rockers. So that was a heck of a score. We got the upgrade on the turbo system, upgrade in the valve train. Obviously, I have to figure out what springs to run in combination with that, custom cam and now shaft mounted rockers. That's half the valve train. Do something not super exotic, but practical for the springs, and, maybe upgrade valves if we get a smoking deal on them, because I'm all about deals. And that should be the engine. I do have K-Tech rods in there, if you don't remember. I got to order pistons, and we're going to use the factory 4.8 crank because I have 4.8 rods, and we're going to use 5.3 pistons with the correct pin height to put into a 5.3 block. Now, that's more or less going to be the setup. It won't be super cheap necessarily. It'll be a well-built, well-thought-out, cost-minded build that'll be right for what we need, not overkill. And ironically enough, the guy I got the rockers from said that the reason he didn't use them is because, like a lot of you, and you know who I'm talking to, he went into building a project that ended up spiraling way out of control, way faster than it needed to, just because it just kept adding and adding. So he said between the roll cage and the suspension, all this exotic stuff he tried to do to the car, He said it was going to be 20,000 plus, and he wasn't going to be anywhere near driving the thing, so he parted it out and cut his losses. That's what we're here to mediate on this channel when we talk about these projects and these builds. Nothing I'm doing is way over the top exotic. I mean, you could argue that all-wheel drive converting your GTO is pretty exotic, until you take into account that the parts came off of a VZ chassis in Australia, OEM stuff that I paid nothing for and more or less bolted into place with a small adjustment I had to make to the steering. I don't consider that exotic for what it could have been. Like the guys that are doing all-wheel drive Civics, and I guess all-wheel drive IS300s is a thing. I'm not doing nearly the level of fabrication those guys are doing, not even close. And so because of that, I don't think of it as being that big of a deal. Now, cost-wise, we're doing pretty well. It's either a deal or we're trading or we're buying and selling. Speaking of trades, I got to tell you about that here in a second. Oh, brakes. ATSV brakes, 6-piston front, 4-piston rears. Beautiful red color. I mean, they're a little dirty. I'm not painting them because hey, we're going to run it just like it is. Clean them up, put them on the car. I'm working with Damien to see if I can get some brackets, test brackets, to see if we can make these brakes fit on the GTO in the all-wheel drive configuration. Since the Holden Adventure is a little bit different than the factory GTO up front. Not super different. It's not even really mounting the calipers that's the problem. It's finding the correct rotors to match. So we still got to work that out. We get that to work, cool. If not, I'm just slap them on the F-body out there, because there's a bracket kit you can buy to put these very brakes on the 4th Gen F-body pretty easily. So they won't go to waste one way or the other. Wheels. We've got the Corvette wheels on here now. The front's barely clear, the brakes, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because they're not solidly mounted in there anyways. So if I can get them to clear, cool. If not, no big deal. I have a deal and another deal for a set of 19s that came off of a G8 that I'll probably run on this car with a set of, radials like R88s or something like that. That'll fit the Australian theme a little bit better than the Corvette style wheels with the weird offsets and all that kind of stuff. But neither here nor there. I want to say that's pretty much it for the GTO right now. We will get back to this car. My goal is to get back to this car hot and heavy right after Halloween. So here in about a week or two, we'll make this the focus of the channel again, because that's the whole reason why I'm happy you were here. That being said, it's raining a lot, but we'll touch on the Camaro a little bit. I was going to show you the interior, because I did fix it, sort of, but it's raining and I don't want to mess with it. So as far as the Camaro is concerned, I got 2 seals, the T-top seals where it touches the window on the door side, and that hard seal there. Both of those rubber seals got replaced on the car. As you can see, it's still under the car cover because I can't trust the seal condition everywhere else on the door frame, and I can't find them either. So I worked pretty hard to get that car clean, not smelling like mold and nasty on the inside. I made a trip to McAllister a couple days ago, bought what I thought was seats out of a 4th Gen that happened to be 3rd Gen seats. Somebody just stuck in a 4th Gen, but they bolted in all the same. Got another set of cloth rear seats, so I have cloth front and rear seats now. They're not the same color, one's gray and one's tan, whatever. It works. It cleaned up the interior a lot with the dash pad and a couple other missing pieces I put in there. Found the fuse panel cover. That's nice. And now it won't start because I'm having issues with either a clog or something going on in the fuel sending unit. So I said screw it and bought the Aeromotive direct drop-in replacement hat, where it's an updated billet hat with a correct pump and, updated level of sensor and all that kind of stuff. I ordered that last night. That should be here in a couple of days. I'll drop that in the car. That should fix half of my issue. And then I'll have to blow the return line out and see if I can find what seems like to be a clog, because I've seen it on the regulator where it's just not consistent for whatever reason. Pulled the fuel injectors, pulled the fuel rails, pulled the regulator out, blew everything out, blew the line out from the filter. So on the car side, or the front half side of the filter, where it comes out of the tank through the filter, pulled that off, cleaned all that, everything was good. So now I'm working on the back end side to try to figure out what's happening. I'll probably end up dropping the tank I don't want to drop the tank. We just put the exhaust system back on there, but I'll probably end up dropping the tank anyways to get in there to really look and see what's going on, what my issue is. Because it'll start fine, it'll idle fine, it'll drive for a little bit. As soon as you start giving it throttle and really getting on it, it starts cutting out and falling on its space and all this weird stuff. So we'll make one more pass at the fueling system and try to get that rectified, as well as putting, you know, non-slicks on the rear and non-bulb tires on the front, so we can drive it through the winter, more or less. But if we can't, no big deal. So that's where we're at with that car for right now. I looked into something called a steelhead mod, where they get rid of the OptiSpark and you can run LS coils. I have an extra set of LS coils, so we'll look into that and see if that's feasible, if a deal can be made on the parts, and if it's worth it. Because I have the Haltech system still, and given the ECU that's currently in the GTO, that of a 4-wheel drive 5.3 liter Suburban, I can just modify that harness to run the Adventura and the 4L60 that's in there, because Suburbans came with a 4L60, and be done with it. At least the 1500s did. And the all-wheel drive. That ECM that's in the car should be able to talk to everything, and no problem, keeping all the GM parts, the sensors and all. And if that's the case, that, you know, PCM should be more than capable of supporting well over 800,000 horsepower, which is well beyond the scope of this car. And if that's the case, then I'll just take the Haltech system and put it in the F-body and run the LT1 and all with this overkill of an ECU, 1000%, not even going to lie, for the sake of fixing it and not having to spend another $1,800 on a steelhead coilover conversion when I have an ECU already on hand that'll do that, which is some getting the harness done, so whatever. So this deal on the toolbox. If you remember, I had a EJ25 that was sleeved, and if you notice, this EJ25 is closed deck. This right here is a true blue IAG Stage 4 super badass short block. So the story on this engine was, I had just finished the other short block with the sleeves, and you know, it was turbo tough rods and Wiseco pistons, new ring. We just basically did a re-ring, re-bearing, honed it, checked all the clearances, everything was good. Put it back together, and I seen this block on Marketplace for $1,500, and I was like, hey. So I got this other, arguably equally good setup, just maybe not as high horsepower rated, but I mean, it's a Subaru, so whatever. What'd you say we do a little trade? The problem was he lived 3.5 hours away, almost 4 hours away. So we figured we'd find a halfway point roughly to meet, so only 2.5 hours of driving for at least me. I can't speak for how far he had to go. And called it good. So that's what we did. And went up there. I brought mine, he brought his stuff. We checked him out. He was like, I think it needs a lot of machine work. And the story on it is it came, or it was purchased at a lost freight auction. And his words, that he got it home and just assumed there was something wrong with it, or else it wouldn't have been shipped somewhere. Now, you and I, who've been turning wrenches for a while and been to a machine shop or two, know that's not how this works. After some examination on my, or inspection on my end, when I got it home, there's nothing wrong with this block. Nothing significant anyways. It's got typical wear inside the cylinder walls, where they wear, all Subaru engines wear, just by the nature of the motion, right? How it moves. But the bearings look great. The journals look great. The rods look great. The rod journals look good. The rods look fine. The pistons, they're a little rough in some areas, but nothing a little bit of cleaning can't fix. And maybe some emery cloth here and there. But overall, it's not what it was. However, my engine was complete and ready to go. His was in pieces and more or less a gamble. But it's all ARP hardware. ARP case bolts, ARP rod bolts. It was built to take ARP 14mm head bolts, so I'll have to buy another set of those or find a deal on a set on Marketplace, because that's my bread and butter here lately. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, to be honest with you. No idea. I was in my last setup about $1,600 between the original purchase, the machine work and getting the bearings and rings and everything to put it back together. But I sold some of that stuff and used some of that stuff in my son's car. You know, like the oil pump and some other pieces got recycled in his car. The heads had GSC valve trains, which I still have. GSC valves, springs, locks, retainers, all that. So this all together is pretty solid. We'll hone it. We'll have Stanley check the clearances and everything. And I don't know. I contacted IAG. The short block was originally built back in 2019. Okay, so that's a couple years ago. They said that it is rated to about 1,000 horsepower. Most customers don't take them that high. They're probably closer to, you know, 650, 675, maybe 7 to the tire, which is smart. You don't want to take it all the way to the edge, right? You always want to, you know, take it just to the edge. It'll live longer that way. So with that being said, I don't know. I'll probably try to trade it off or sell it once I reassemble this one, or I don't know, look for a blown up SCI to put it in. I already have to deal with this Camaro right now, so I'm not trying to acquire another car project. I need to make some headway on the GTO before the winter, and I need the Camaro at least drivable for the time being without T-top leaks and everything else. The heat works and all the other stuff, so I'm not really trying to create a whole other issue. But I have another revelation. Back in the day, I had a 99 Mustang Cobra that I built that up until like 2 weeks ago was still around. And that car recently got totaled. Very sad. But hey, it made it this far. So there's that. Anyways, I found a DSS Racing Stage 2 or Level 20 or something like that. I forget what it's called. Short block. Well, bare block. Brand new. Never used. $475. I don't have a modular Ford. I don't need a modular Ford. But you know how I am with deals, because you never know when you might have to use this stuff or come across it again. And then on top of that, like 2 days later, I found a set of DSS Racing forged rod connecting rods on eBay. So I got these bad boys here, H-beam rods, and then brand new bare block. Here in a second, I'm going to spray it down with some lube. It's been stored inside until when I got it, probably about a couple weeks ago. I don't want it to start to oxidize, so I'm going to spray it down here in a second. But again, I don't know what the future is for it, but I got it. It was very cheap. I'll spray everything down and, you know, keep it stored well, especially out here. Probably wrap it in a bag, call it good for the time being. But if Mustang GT comes along, or if somebody blows up their Mustang, hey, I got this here. I'll probably try to get my hands on an 0304 Cobra crank. If you're aware, those are factory nodular forged cranks. Back in the day, they're good to well over 1,000. They can be had fairly cheaply. You can also use the crank out of the 0304 Mach 1s, which weren't as popular, but they're, from my understanding, the same crank. But there's that. So we'll probably do something with that in the future. It's not really on the foreseeable future, because it's just it was a smoking deal at the time. It'll probably get traded off before I use it. We'll see. But that's what we got lined up. Get the Camaro sorted, get the GTO cracking, do something with that EJ behind me, and then, you know, we kind of got this mod Ford here that could possibly see some action here on the horizon if I come across a free or near free Crown Vic or something, or a Mach 1 with a blown up engine or something to that effect. Because I still want a 5-speed or some kind of manual car. I don't know if I'll come across a smoking deal on a Cobra, but you never know. Anything's possible. But yeah, that's where we're at, man. So actually, Jared might want that block for his 03 Cobra project. So I'll hit him up. But anyways, that's where we're at for right now. I'm super sorry it's been so long since I've done any sort of an update video to let you guys know what's going on. I have a lot of vehicles to keep track of, including 2 teenagers and the wife, and then the car that I drive daily, and then this thing, and it's a whole thing. So, but we're going to get back on getting the content. We'll get back on making the shorts and try to get back on the posts and stuff. a little bit heavier going into the end of the year, and then get ready to finish strong and see what 2026 has to offer. So, as always, thanks for watching.